Really good, health-wise, everything.
That's wonderful.
All right, Doris. Now we're going to ask you various questions about when you were a student and when you were a teacher in country school.
Yeah?
Yeah, so feel free to talk about anything you want. There are no boundaries here today. But just to start out, could you state your name and the years that you attended and taught country school?
I'm Doris Bigelow. I live here at the rest home, but I used to teach a country school, and I had all of the grades, and that's just how it went.
Do you know what the name of the school was where you taught?
Warren number 4.
Warren, number 4. What?
And Cheyenne, out of Osage.
Okay. Was Warren close to Osage too?
Yes, about 3 miles out.
Okay. And that's where you taught?
Yeah.
And which one did you go to? You attended rural school too?
Well, yeah, let's see, I went to a country school down by Orchard, I think. Yeah. Through, till the 8th grade.
Okay. Did you go to kindergarten?
Mm-hmm.
Kindergarten through 8th grade. Do you know how many kids were in your school?
Not too many. There must have been about 16, 15, something like
All
that.
right.
But they were all the grades.
Okay. All right. I need to
Sometimes
let you
there
ask
was just
questions.
one in a grade.
Okay. How many in your grade?
Probably just one.
You were the only one.
Yeah.
You were the top of the class.
No.
No, just one.
Do you remember the years?
Pardon me?
Do you remember the years you attended rural school?
From, I'd say about the 3rd grade to the 8th.
In like the 1930s, 40s, 50s?
Yeah, let's see.
Doris,
I can't seem to remember.
she was born in 1927. So if you
1927.
just do the math there till she was 5 or 6 probably.
Ah.
8, so about 35, maybe 1935
Yeah.
to 40, 41. Before the war. Before the war. So you were in high school
No, I think the war was on.
when you went to school?
Hmm.
Okay.
What was that like? What was that like, going to school during the war?
Well, we weren't supposed to talk too much about the war. But we did realize that there was a war and the things were rationed, you know. But as far as following the campaigns, the teachers didn't dwell on that.
Do you remember with the rationing what you missed the most?
The sweets.
Oh, the sugar. You and I be on the same plate.
Well, I lived on a farm, so it didn't affect us all that much. And we had the rationing cards, pamphlets, you know, and there were 6 of us in a family. So it didn't bother us. We didn't use them all, but we gave some of them away, you know. But yeah, it's part of life.
It was, wasn't it?
But, so you said the Pledge of Allegiance in school?
Oh yes,
Oh yes?
oh yes, the first thing.
Very first thing?
Your hand on your heart.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes the heart was down here.
What else did you do on your way to school?
On the way to school,
Mhm.
we walked
You walked to school?
1 mile and 3/4
Oh.
to school.
Did you ever have any trouble getting to school? Like,
Getting to school,
yeah, snowstorms or did you run into any snowstorms getting to
Oh,
school?
yes.
Yeah.
Then my dad would get the wagon and the horses in the wagon and take us.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Were there mean dogs?
One family had dogs that we were very scared of. But I don't think they would have hurt us, but
You were scared anyway.
yeah, yeah.
Were there other children that you walked with them along the way?
Yeah, sometimes we'd stop and pick them up. Yeah.
If you were 1 mile and 3/4 out, you probably picked up half of them, didn't you? How close in ages were your sisters? So because they would have been walking with you, right?
Oh. Let's see.
Bertha was born in 25, so she's 2 years older.
Yeah.
That's my mother.
I think 2 of them had to live in town to go to high school.
Oh,
And then when I graduated from 8th grade, well, then I had to live in town with my aunt
okay.
to go to high school. But the first 3 girls were quite close together. I was the 3rd one.
Okay.
So, after rural school, you went to high school, and then did you go to normal training?
No,
No?
I went to Wartburg.
Wartburg, okay.
Mhm,
And then you started teaching,
mhm.
and you taught at one
It was during the war, and we got certificates. The teachers, there weren't very many teachers, so it was during the war I got a certificate to teach.
Uh-huh.
How long did you have to go to school to get that certificate?
One summer,
1 summer at Warburg. Did you ever go back and get more?
yes.
Did you?
Yeah.
All at Warburg?
I was required to go back
Oh.
each summer for so many weeks for summer school.
Okay. That's new information. I've heard that before.
Yeah, interesting.
I hadn't either, so.
So,
And you taught at one school or 2 schools?
1, 2.
2?
Mhm.
And the first one was named
Cheyenne,
Cheyenne, and the second one was
May,
May. Okay. And this was in what county?
Mitchell.
Mitchell County. All right. Uh-huh. So, when you were at school, what did your schoolhouse look like?
Picture an Amish school,
Mm-hmm.
like that.
Okay. Was it white?
Hmm.
Okay.
Pot-belly stove.
All right.
One school I had was they had a big furnace,
Mm-hmm.
and it really kept the place warm. Where some schools just had a pot-belly stove, and you had to keep stoking it, and keep putting coal in it.
Mm-hmm.
was that your job? Was
The
that your
teacher's
job to feed the stove?
Mhm.
Did you use the stove to heat up your lunches at all?
We'd put them on the top of the furnace,
Okay.
and I don't know why there was a shelf there, whether the men built one, but there was a shelf there that you put your jars of soup on, and whatever they want, whatever you brought.
Okay.
And then by noon it would be warm enough
Oh.
for them to eat
Oh,
Hot lunch.
clever.
at lunch.
What did you carry your lunch to school in?
Oh, I had a regular dinner pail,
Okay.
just an old-fashioned dinner pail.
Okay. Do you remember what else might have been in there besides soup?
Sandwiches
Okay. What kind?
and leftovers.
Okay. Homemade bread?
Yeah, yeah. I lived with my sister,
Oh.
Mary's mother.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
So did she fix your lunch?
sometimes she'd do it, sometimes I do it.
sorts of lessons did you learn in school?
Pardon me?
What sorts of lessons did you learn in school? Subjects? Like math, arithmetic?
Can't hear you.
What subjects did you learn in school?
In what subject did I teach in school?
Sure. What did you teach? Did you teach math? Did you teach
No, I went to a rural school and you taught all of them.
all of them? Mm-hmm.
What did you like to teach the most?
History.
Oh.
Because you could you could get the kids to dig in and find something interesting, you know, to expand what the book taught.
Okay.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
What one did you not like to teach?
arithmetic.
What one did you like to learn in school the most? History? Did you like history the most when you were a student?
Not two.
No. No.
So what was your favorite one to learn when you were learning?
I think English probably. It was more structured
Okay.
and you couldn't get the kids to sway away from it.
Okay.
You know, it was
Cut and dry. Can you think of anything funny that happened when you were teaching?
oh, with that many kids, there was always something funny.
Every day.
I know there was one time I had a first grader, and this was in the wintertime, and he wet his pants. So, do I send him home to walk 1 3/4 miles in wet pants? So I stuck him behind the furnace.
There we go.
And he took his pants off and I draped him over the furnace so we dried him out before he was ready to go back home.
I bet he remembers that too.
So then I put a chair by the furnace so he wouldn't be embarrassed. So then when we had called him for class, we'd have to go like this.
Can you think of anything scary that happened while you were teaching?
Hobos.
Oh, more than one, because you said hobos.
Yeah, they used to tell, and I still don't know if it's true, but they used to tell that the hobo would be up in the attic.
Spend the night there? Would he
Huh?
spend the night
And
there?
spend the night, yeah. And then hopefully would leave before I came. But we never saw him. But that was always the story. There was hobos up in the attic.
Oh, that would be scary. That'd be scary.
Do you remember what you wore to school as a student?
Pardon me?
What did you wear to school as a student?
Just regular stuff,
Regular stuff? A dress?
yeah.
Dress?
We could wear, we never had jeans. It was always a dress.
Mm. Did the boys wear jeans?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Overalls?
Bib overalls.
Mm-hmm. What
Their
about...
pencils were in here.
Ah, uh-huh. What about as a teacher? What did you wear?
Just regular
Regular
clothes.
clothes? Same thing?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Did you wear the same underwear all winter?
No.
Okay.
No.
They talk about sewing themselves into the underwear, but you never had to do that.
No.
No, that's good.
When I taught school, I lived with my sister, her mother,
Bertha, was that her
Bertha.
name? Okay.
and she did the laundry for me.
Oh, nice. She charged you?
So. No,
Oh, that was a good deal. I bet you helped her though too. Did you help her?
oh yeah,
Oh, what about helping your dad? Did you have chores before you went to school in the
Oh, yeah.
morning? What kinds of things did you girls do?
we had to milk the cows. We never had a milker, we just milked. And then we'd run it through the separator to get the cream and put the the cream can in the milk tank. And then our school was 1 3/4 miles away, so then we would walk. And sometimes Dad would hitch up the horses and take us in the wagon because he thought it would be too cold for us to walk. So,
What were the horses' names? Do you
Jim and John.
Jim and John.
Jim was the best horse and John was lazy. He followed.
It's one in every group, isn't there?
What expectations were there of you as a student from your teacher?
What was that?
What expectations were there of you from your teacher?
To graduate.
Oh.
And at that time, they gave tests.
Oh, yeah?
And if you passed the test, then you could graduate.
What was that like?
Some of it was quite hard.
Mhm.
But luckily, I did the right thing.
Did she work with you extra after school as you got ready to take that test? The
My
eighth-
sister?
Or
No.
your teacher?
No,
As you got ready to take the 8th grade test, you just did it all on
they
your
just
own?
gave it.
Did you go into the courthouse to do that?
No, she came to the school.
Okay. Would that be the county superintendent?
Mhm.
Okay.
I can't think what her name was. But she was had her hair back in a knob.
Severe, was she?
And she expected a lot of you. She expected you to teach, not just play with them, but teach. So
And she came and brought the test to the kids. Did she ever help you? Did she have meetings, teacher meetings, so that you could,
oh, we were required to go to
Okay.
teachers' meetings. Yes.
very often?
No, probably every 3 months, maybe.
Okay, okay, about 3 times a year, maybe. Did she have any special materials for you? Any books?
Yeah, she gave us instructions on what she expected us to teach. Of course, we had the course of study, and we were to follow that, but then she would add some little things to make sure that we did it.
Oh. Did you have homework?
Oh yeah, we had to keep pretty good records of lesson plans on what we had to do.
So every night you went home and worked to teach the next day?
Yeah, there was a lot of work to do,
You work all day and work all night?
and the lesson plans, to make sure that you covered everything during the year.
Did you have to show those to her, your lesson plans?
Oh yeah, yeah. I used to have the book around here, but I've got it packed away someplace that had the lessons for each grade that I had. And I've got it packed away someplace. And
Did you ever have any problems with parents?
yes,
Don't tell us.
I had one parent that she thought she knew how to teach more than I did.
Did she have more than one child in the school?
One,
Just one, thank goodness.
just one. Her name was Mrs. Ike, and every time I hear that word, I think, oh.
Still, oh, she really was bad. She's naughty. You didn't deserve that.
And some of her ideas was way out.
Do you remember any of them?
No.
No. But you just know
No.
she just was way out there.
And she would come at 8 o'clock in the morning, and I had things to do, you know, before 9. And she would come and sit and talk and talk. Finally, I decided that I had to get some things done, so I kept working all the while she was there. She still stayed.
So the children came at 9,
Mm-hmm.
and did you send them home at 4?
3:30 in the wintertime.
They got to go home earlier in the winter.
We only had a half an hour noon
Okay.
in the winter.
Okay.
And then when the weather got better, well then we had the hour noon so they could play outdoors.
All right. Flex hours. for
But
them.
usually if it was too cold, I didn't send them out to play.
Uh-huh.
I'd tell them they had to run around the schoolhouse so many times and then they'd come in.
Sounds like you didn't have any troubles getting them to come in. It's that cold. So they came at 9, and you said the pledge,
Mm-hmm.
and then you
Started the classes,
started the classes. Start with first grade first or kindergarten?
kindergarten first,
Okay.
and then I went on down through.
Okay. Like reading. Start with reading,
Mm-hmm.
and then you start with math, arithmetic. Maybe you didn't. Maybe you left that till the end of the day.
Then we have penmanship,
Okay.
you know,
All right.
and yeah,
Some health.
pardon me,
Health.
health, yeah.
Do you have music?
Hmm?
Any music classes?
That was questionable. We had a Victrola,
Uh-huh.
you know, when there's one,
Mhm.
and we're supposed to sing with the Victrola, but that wasn't too successful.
Mm-hmm. Uh-huh.
Of course, there was a piano, but I don't play the piano, so.
Uh-huh.
And then there was the Christmas programs. Oh, how I hated Christmas programs. Kids would get naughty because it wasn't structured. And they, after the Christmas program, well then they would go back to our structured thing and it was fine. But during the time we practiced for the Christmas program, oh, it was hectic. I just hated Christmas programs.
Children thrive under structure, don't they? Do you remember some of the? Did you do music and songs and
Yeah,
skits?
with the record player, Victrola.
Okay. For the program.
Yeah.
Okay. Did they?
And then I had a high school girl that would come and play the piano,
Oh.
out of tune piano.
What sorts of other things were in your schoolhouse?
Pardon me?
What sorts of other things were in your schoolhouse?
What sort of things were?
You had desks. Did you have desk in your schoolhouse? Did you have the American flag?
Oh yeah.
Did you have George Washington
Oh yes. And Lincoln.
and Lincoln? Did you have bookshelves for books?
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Yes. We had kind of a library,
Mm.
and then I would go into Osage to the superintendent's office and pick out books
Mm.
and bring them back and tell the kids to read them.
Yeah. So you had to go get the books
Oh,
and
yeah.
bring them back? Okay. Your superintendent's office. At the superintendent's office?
Yes, yes.
Did you ever see your superintendent?
Oh, yes.
What was that like?
She was nice. We knew what we were supposed to teach and how we were supposed to teach it. But she was quite congenial.
It was a woman.
Hmm.
Uh-huh.
Well, not always.
Okay.
Not always. We had a man for a few years. His name was Mr. Ortel.
And they would come visit you in the school?
Oh yeah, you never knew when they were coming.
Oh, okay. Did they
They would
talk
just-
to you?
They would just knock on the door and you answered it and there they were.
They would talk to you, right?
Oh yeah,
Yeah. Observe.
yeah.
Okay.
And then if I had any problems, well then I was supposed to talk to them about with any kid that if I had any problems, and they would talk to the kid and tell them they can't do that.
Did you have any other friends who were teachers?
Oh yes.
Yeah. Did you communicate with
Yes.
them?
We, about every month or every 2 months, teachers would get together and bring potluck and then talk about what problems they had or,
Were they very far away, or were they in the same county? Same county?
it was all in the county,
Okay. All right.
all of the rural schools in the county.
Do you remember what you were paid?
The highest I ever got was $212 a month. And I think the lowest I got was $165.
Did that change from school to school?
Yeah, from one school to the other,
Uh-huh.
one district to the other.
Did you feel that was about right for a teacher?
Yeah, I got along. Of course, there's a lot of expense too, driving back and forth to school. Of course, there was always families you could stay with, but I never did. I had a car,
Did you buy some of the supplies for the school?
Many.
What kinds of supplies did you buy?
cleaning supplies. And probably toilet paper.
For the outhouse? For the outhouse?
Oh yes,
Yeah. Do you have one?
boys and the girls.
Two outhouses? Okay. Did you have electricity? How was your school lit?
What was the school like?
How was it lit? What was the lighting?
Oh, I think they had lamps, but
Lamps?
we never used them.
Oh, sunlight? You used sunlight?
Yeah, we weren't there at night, only for programs.
Was your school rectangle
Mhm.
with 3 windows on each side?
Mhm.
Okay. Your desk was in the back of the school?
Yeah.
Okay.
Teacher's desk was up front,
And you had rows of desks?
and then blackboards all across.
Uh-huh. And you had a potbelly stove.
Hmm?
You had a potbelly stove, right?
And
All right.
one school I had a furnace, a regular. It took up most of the corner,
Oh, really?
and it was a big tank outside, oil burner. Oh, that was nice to come into a warm school.
And you didn't have to feed it. Did you have a well for water?
One school had a well.
What did you do for the other?
The kids just fought to pump the water. Oh, they liked to do that.
Did everyone share the same cup?
No. We had, some of them had their own cups, and then I always bought paper cups. Because if one kid had a cold, the other ones would get to go.
What was the worst part about teaching?
Yeah.
What was the worst part?
What was the worst part?
Those Christmas programs, huh?
That was the next thing. I think going into a cold schoolhouse. But Christmas programs, I never liked the Christmas programs because kids would get so unruly. They needed structure. And it took a long time to get them settled down. In fact, you got behind with the practicing for the kitchen program because the parents always expected perfection for their kid. So.
What discipline techniques did you use?
Discipline? Stay after school.
Oh. Scared them. Did you do one or two if they had to go outside? Like one to go to the bathroom?
No, they just said I need to go to the bathroom,
Okay.
restroom.
Otherwise, they had to stay after school.
I always went with a decision as when you gotta go, you gotta go.
Bless you.
But sometimes I'd say, well, you went. You just went. Well, I gotta go again, so I let him go.
What was most rewarding for you?
When they passed their tests.
How many students took the test? How many students took the 8th grade test?
I didn't have too many 8th graders. Thank goodness. I had 7th graders. But I never did have very many 8th graders.
Okay.
It was a young community.
Okay.
When you were walking to school, do you remember birds?
Did I what?
Remember birds
Oh yeah,
as you walked to school?
yeah.
Did you know all their melodies?
I think so.
Wow.
And then sometimes at recess the kids would be out, and we'd see birds in the trees. So then that would be another project.
Were the kids pretty nice to each other?
We had one kid that was a hellion. And I kept pretty good close tabs on him. But as a rule, they kind of took care of each other.
Isn't that nice?
Well behaved?
Hmm?
Well behaved with each other? Do you remember one student in particular?
Do I remember one student?
Like, how do you remember your students?
Lots of times things will just come up and I'll just say, oh, this kid did that. Yeah.
How do you think your students would remember you?
Oh. I was quite a taskmaster.
Oh, okay.
So they know they learned a lot. So they learned a lot when they were in class
I
with
hope
you.
they did. Yeah, I think they did, and I hope they did.
Did you have spelling bees?
No.
Did they work on the chalkboard? You mentioned you had a lot of chalkboard. Did they do some of their work on the chalkboard? Some of their math on the chalkboard?
No,
No.
we didn't do much of that.
Some of their spelling on the chalkboard?
I would put words up on that I knew that they didn't know up on the chalkboard. And then they'd have to look it up and see what it meant.
And did they have workbooks?
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm,
Did they have to buy those workbooks?
mhm. The superintendent told what they had to buy.
Okay. So they went into town and bought their books?
Yeah.
Yeah?
They had to go into town to get the stuff before school.
Did you have to do that as a student?
As a student,
When you
No.
attended? Okay. Changing times there, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
different superintendents.
Oh, okay. So different superintendents had different rules and expectations.
Right.
Okay. Did you like that? Did you not like that?
You learned early on what they expected of you. I know we had one man superintendent, he would rather play football.
Okay.
But the rest of them, they were quite strict. And you never knew when they came to visit.
Mm.
They would just, some of them would knock and you'd answer the door, and then others would just walk in and sit in the back of the room.
Oh.
I had one country school teacher tell me that she always kept the screen door locked so the superintendent couldn't surprise her.
That's smart.
You needed to know that a few years ago, didn't you?
I don't think in one school that would have worked.
It would have stopped him from floating down at all. All right.
So how were you hired as a teacher?
You went, when I was teaching, you went to the director and told her that you would like to teach this school. And then I'd have to present my certificate. And that's it.
That's it? Did you get to pick your school or did they place you?
No, I got to pick it.
Uh-huh. Why did you want to work in the schools that you did? Why did you want to work in the first school you worked at?
The first school I taught was about a mile from my sister's house.
Oh, okay.
So I stayed with my sister and then walked to school.
Mm-hmm. And then your second school?
Hmm?
Then your second school?
The second school, I had a car,
Ah. Mm-hmm.
and so I drove.
Mm-hmm. And this was after the war, right?
Mhm.
Okay.
My brother-in-law helped me buy the car, picked out the car, because he said, this is a good car because it was built before the war.
Oh, okay.
And it was a good car.
Yeah?
There are a few country schools left in Iowa. Like you said, the Amish schools
Amish.
are still open. Would we be better off if we had some country schools today?
Yes and no. For the introvert kids, the country school was better. Otherwise, they'd just be lost in the shuffle in town schools.
So that's the yes.
Hmm?
So that's the yes, why they'd be better off if we had some. What's the no? You said yes and no.
There wouldn't be as much challenge. You know, there's always kids that are seeking to find out more than in the country school. Of course, that was up to the teacher. You always had to get them interested in something else to go beyond the school book. So then I would have to go up to the county superintendent to pick out books for this one and for that one.
Did you ever have art projects for them to do?
On Friday afternoon.
Friday afternoon. Do you remember any art projects?
We painted a lot, you know, with watercolor. I don't seem to remember what we did for art. We had art, but that escapes me now.
What was it like going from 8th grade to town school?
Hard.
Hard? Did you like it, not like it?
It was a challenge, but with my family, you knew that you were there to work and to learn, and no fooling around.
What were the town kids like?
No different.
Did you live with your aunt all 4 years of high school?
No. 3 years. And then my dad moved to Plainfield, and we had bus service. So then I got to stay at home and be bused to school. So I had 3 years in Osage and 1 year in Plainfield.
So you graduated from Plainfield.
Graduated from Plainfield.
In what year? Do you remember what year?
46.
Did you have an 8th grade graduation when you graduated?
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember what you wore?
It wasn't anything. You just sat in a circle on the stage and we had a speaker.
Boring.
Boring. Yeah.
Some things never change.
And I will always remember, my last name was Sheldon, S. The boy next to me, his name be's, I don't remember, but it was S. And he had an epileptic fit.
Oh, during the graduation?
On the stage.
Oh.
And he kept, I suppose he was dizzy, and he kept reaching. And I think he was reaching for me because he was dizzy, but I kept backing up. I was scared to death. And then they pulled the curtain.
Oh. That was nice. That was thoughtful. So you graduated from high school, and then that summer, did you go to Wartburg?
Then I
Right after you graduated, that very summer, you went to Wartburg.
Then I went to Wartburg.
And that next fall, then you started teaching. So you were 18 years old, in charge of all those kids. 18 years old.
Were there classmates who did not pass the 8th grade exam?
I never had any.
Never?
In your school?
No.
You don't remember any in your school not passed? And when you were a student? When you were a student, you don't remember anyone not graduating?
I don't remember of any.
That's good. Because we've seen those tests. Those tests were not easy, were they?
What did you have to do with your 8th grade exam? Did you have to like recite the Constitution or?
I don't remember. That I don't remember. Evidently I passed it, so.
What are some important takeaways you want people to remember about country school?
Oh. One thing is how you learn to get along with each other. The, and then you were told to do something and you were expected to have it done. I went both to a town school and a country school. There was a lot of difference.
What was the best part about town school?
Hot lunch.
Did you play games at recess?
Yeah, everybody was out on the playground. One grade was here and another grade was there. You didn't intermingle with grades.
Oh, different from country school?
Mhm.
Okay.
With country school, the big ones took care of the little ones.
What's,
And if one little kid got picked on, well then a big kid would come and rescue him.
Nice.
There was more in country school.
what games did you play?
Red Rover, Red Rover. And sometimes they would try to play ball. But the ball would be here and the bat would be down here.
Did you have farming boys in your class? Did they ever have to leave for harvest season?
Oh, yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Did
But they were good, the parents were good about it. They usually made sure that they would do their makeup work.
So they had to catch up then,
Yeah.
huh? They have lots of homework? Did they have lots of homework?
Not a lot.
No.
Of course, they missed out on some of the things that we did because they couldn't do it, but they usually got along all right.
You milked cows.
Mhm.
Did you do any other chores?
Feed the pigs
Chickens?
before we went to school.
Collect the eggs?
Mhm. If you didn't pick the eggs from the nest, well, then they got dirty, and then you had to wash them before you sent them to the hatchery. So you were quite vigilant in keeping up on the eggs.
Saved you a step.
Mhm.
Saved time.
What other chores did you have to do in country school?
Milk the cow. Oh, you mean at school?
At school.
Oh, at school?
Did you have any responsibilities?
Yeah, we had to sweep the school, and if you had a furnace, you had to bring in the coal. It was always 10 minutes before closing that you would tell the kids, oh, you can do your chores now. And so they would bring in the coal for the furnace and probably start to sweep. But as a rule, I did the janitor work.
You bought the cleaning stuff and you did the work. Bet your school was sparkling clean, wasn't it?
I tried to.
Do you have a best memory of country school? Do you have a best memory of country school?
Just the school in general.
Do you have
Not a best memory.
not a best? Do you have a worst? Do you have a worst memory of country school?
Programs.
Oh,
Christmas programs.
Oh, how I hated programs. Kids would get unruly. Then some of them would learn their lines and some of them wouldn't.
Did you have a picnic in the spring,
Mm-hmm.
the last day of school? Tell us about that.
Well, usually there was one woman that took care of that.
One of the mothers?
Mm-hmm. So I didn't have to do that. She would get the tables and the chairs and tell people what they could bring, and I didn't have to do that.
That's good. You had enough to do.
So,
do you remember record keeping?
oh,
Remember grades?
yeah,
The big books?
yeah.
Yeah.
You had to write down all your lesson plans for the day or for the week. And each year you'd have it, she'd give you a new book. But I outsmarted her, I used the same book.
And then you had to turn those in?
She would come and look at them.
She would? Uh-huh. What'd she think?
She had her hair back in a knot, and she was harsh.
Yeah.
But then when she left, she'd say, "Miss Sheldon, you're doing a good job."
You'll take it, right? Do you know what happened to your country schools?
Yeah, full of pigs.
Oh!
That's sad.
So they were turned into like barns?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What about the other schools? Do you know what happened to them?
Usually the farmer would take them.
Okay. And that was after your time, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Why did you quit teaching?
I got married. I taught in Iowa, and I married a Minnesotan. I missed it. I really missed it. But then I would have had to go to school, summer school, or back to the college and get a degree in order to teach in Minnesota. So I never did.
So you moved to Minnesota?
Hmm?
Did you move to Minnesota?
Mhm.
Okay.
I lived in Iowa.
Oh, okay. All right.
She moved to Austin, which is just 30 miles across the border
Okay. All right.
from Osage, where
Uh-huh.
the area where she grew up. And so she wasn't far, but
Then what did you do?
Hmm?
Then what did you do after you got married?
I worked in a bakery,
Very different.
sold Bismarcks and stuff.
Long Johns.
Long Johns too?
My favorite, Long Johns. You used to bring us Long Johns all the time. She was like a second mom. We grew up with her.
Well, you've been wonderful. You really have. I've heard things. I've done a lot of these interviews, and I learned things today I'd not heard before. So, very good.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Doris. Thank you so much for talking with us today. Is there anything else you want to talk about?
Well, when I taught one school in Iowa, I lived with her mother.
Okay, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And when the weather was bad, well, then her dad would take me to school.
Oh.
And then at 4 o'clock, he would be there to take me home.
Oh.
So then I would have to gather up all my homework.
So you can continue working at home, right?
Yeah, he was really good. He would take me to school too, her dad.
Mm-hmm. Not every teacher had that, did they? No. Mm-mm.
I was lucky, very lucky.
Mm-hmm. Well, is there anything else you want people to remember about country school? 20 years, 30 years down the road.
I think it was a companionship that the kids had for one another. And then you got to know each kid, what to expect of them. I liked it.
How do you think education has changed?
I don't know. I haven't been associated with schools and children. I don't have children. So I just haven't been associated with them to know of a change. Yeah, it was quite an experience.
Well, thanks to people like you, we can keep this history alive, can't we?
And thanks to people like you, just think of all the children who learned while you were
Yeah.
teaching.
Have you ever seen one of your students?
Have I?
Have you ever run into one of your students?
Oh yeah.
Yeah?
Every once in a while.
Yeah? What's that like?
Oh, I always ask them what they're doing with their life. Some of them have an answer and some of them don't.
But they all passed their 8th grade exam, so. Alrighty, well, do you have
Okay.
anything?
No, that's it. Thank you very, very much.
It was quite an experience.
Do you know how many country schools Iowa had?
Other than the Amish, not very many.
Do you know how many they had in the heyday?
One in each county.
More than 12,000.
Is that right?
Isn't that amazing?
Just think how many hog houses there are.
No wonder we have more hogs than people, right?
Oh gosh. Do you still have your certificate?
Do I what?
Do you still have your teaching certificate?
Somewhere.
Somewhere?